Welcome to our virtual science fair presentation. We are Anna, Francesca, and Tejh from Ananda High School. Our project is about fat content in potato chips. Our research question is, are potato chips marked as reduced fat really reduced fat? Our hypothesis was that the chips advertised as reduced fat would be reduced fat according to the FDA requirements. The FDA requirements are that the reduced fat chips have to have 25% less fat than the original. We chose to experiment with Cape Cod and Kettle brand potato chips because they both have kettle cooked chips that went through the same cooking process and have reduced fat options for those chips. We used acetone to remove the fat because we needed a nonpolar solvent that could interrupt the interaction of the nonpolar fat bonds and separate the elements in the fat molecule, making the fat liquid. We also needed a solvent that had a low evaporation temperature.
The independent variable, the one that the experimenter intentionally changes, was the type of chips we used. The dependent variable, the one that changes on its own as a result of changing the independent variable, was the amount of fat extracted. Our jars had the type of chip and trial number on it. We put the chips in acetone once, drained them, then put them in acetone again to ensure the fat would be dissolved. We did 3 separate trials for each type of chip to ensure accuracy. We used a scale that measured to the 10th place to get an accurate reading of the weights before and after extraction. We took these weights and found the difference to calculate the fat content. We then took this number and found the percent of fat content in each trial. The Cape Cod regular chips had a fat mass of 1.53 grams. The Cape Cod reduced fat chips had a fat mass of 1 gram. The Kettle regular chips had a fat mass of 1.83 grams, and the Kettle reduced fat chips had a fat mass of 1.33 grams. As a result, we noticed that the reduced fat chips were really reduced fat.
The reduced fat chips did have a lower fat content in both the Kettle chips and in the Cape Cod chips. The Kettle original had more fat than the Cape Cod original, and the Cape Cod reduced fat had a lower fat content than the Kettle reduced fat according to our experiment. Cape Cod original has 15.4% fat, and the Kettle original has 18.8% fat. Cape Cod reduced fat had 10.4% fat content, and the Kettle reduced fat had 13.3% fat content. Following the FDA requirements for marketing as reduced fat, variations have to have at least 25% less fat than the regular. Kettle has 27% less fat, and the Cape Cod has 35% less fat. According to nutrition facts, the Kettle regular is 32.14% fat, and the Cape Cod regular is 28.57% fat. Additionally, both reduced fat chips are 21.43% fat. Comparing these two things show that our extraction efficiency wasn't very high. The mesh strainer could have allowed small pieces of chips through, impacting the mass. The wind could have affected weight, so we put up a windshield to prevent altercations as best as we could. The scale wasn't precise, so we could have received incorrect readings for some. And the difference in the weight of the chips before and after extraction was less than the amount of fat that had been extracted, so the only way this is possible is if some acetone was left in the fat jars. In conclusion, both brands of reduced fat chips were reduced fat. More research concluded that the reduced fat chips are in compliance with the FDA's requirements for claiming to be reduced fat. Our hypothesis that the reduced fat chips are really reduced fat was supported, and we discovered that the reduced fat label on the packaging is truthful.
These are the references we used during our project, and this concludes our presentation.